So the topic we're going to start today is loops. So today we're going to learn what are the different loops, what is the purpose of that, and why do we have to use each loop, right? Or what is the purpose of each loop, right? Now, right, the right these are used. Basically, the loops are used to repeat the execution of certain set of statements, okay, certain set of statements. So the purpose of loops is for repetition, right? So the purpose of loops is repetition. That's what we need to keep it in a mind. Repetition, right? Now I want to print, for example, let's say I will say that I want to print hello 10 times. So I cannot sit and write like printf hello 10 times. So I'll write once and then I'll keep on repeating that execution for 10 times. So which gives us more convenience and flexibility, and also it reduces the burden of writing the code repetitively again and again. Okay, so that is the reason we use the concept of loop. Now there are three types of loops in C language. The first one is, right, while loop. Okay, while loop. While loop is also called as entry controlled. Entry controlled loop. Okay, entry controlled loop. Or it is also called as pre-test loop. Pre-test loop. Okay, now let's look at the syntax and then we will understand the meaning of all the words. So the basic syntax of, right, while loop is, while is a keyword followed by a condition, followed by a condition, right, which has a set of statement. Inside the body we will have a set of statements, right, and also updating auxiliary variable. Okay, this you might find it slightly different than the syntax of book, right, and followed by next statement. Okay, right. So first of all, let me tell you what is auxiliary variable. Auxiliary variable means the variable, one second, I'll write down here. Okay, I'll write it here. Auxiliary variable, right, it is a variable which controls the loop, which controls the loop, which controls the loop. Okay, so that is the meaning of auxiliary variable. For example, you might have written a condition like this: while I less than 10, right? So this I variable is called as, right, auxiliary variable. This I variable is called as auxiliary variable, and which where you will do I plus plus inside the loop. This is called as updating auxiliary variable. Okay, this is called as updating auxiliary variable. I have written it separately. Now, right, whenever the execution control comes to while loop, the first thing it does is it checks condition. So since we are checking the condition before entering into the body, we call it as entry controlled loop. We are checking the condition before entering into the body of the loop, so we call it as entry controlled. And the same reason, first we check the condition and then we execute a body. First we check a condition and we execute the body. So we call it as pre-test loop. So we call it as pre-test loop. So when the execution control comes to right while loop, first it checks the condition. If the condition is a true, right, if the condition is a true, right, it will enter inside the body and it executes all the statements including updating auxiliary variable. After that it will loop back again. It will loop back again. So as long as the condition is true, as long as the condition is true, right, the statement will keep on executing till the condition is true. The body of the loop execution will keep on repeating. These steps will keep on repeating again and again. Okay. Now, once the condition becomes false, once the condition becomes false, right, the control comes out of while loop and continues with next statement. When the condition becomes false, the control comes out of while and continues with next statement. This is how a while loop executes. Okay. Now, first question, have you understood this loop, right? Working of while loop. Have you understood the working of while loop? Yes, it can have multiple conditions given. But overall, the final result, based on the final result, the decision will be made. It can have multiple conditions also. Okay. Now, we need to note that, right? A question comes to all of your mind when to use, right, this while loop, right? Okay. It is used, it is used when we don't know, when we don't know or do not know how many times the loop has to be executed. When it is used when we do not know how many times loop has to be executed. Okay. So this is a situation where we don't we use a while loop when we don't know how many times the loop will execute. That count I don't know. So in such situation, we make use of while loop. Are you understanding? For example, I'll take one example and make you understand. Okay, I'll take one program in the later part to understand. Right now, right, this is about while loop. Okay, this is all about while loop. Okay, next thing we will concentrate is do while loop. Next thing we will concentrate is second one is do while. Are you clear on while? Okay, are you clear on while? If you are clear on while, just remember that we use it when we don't know how many times we have to execute the loop. So that time we use, right, while loop. Do while is also called as, right, exit controlled loop. Exit controlled loop, or it is also called as post test loop, right? Do while is also called as exit controlled or post test loop. Okay. Now, right, let's look at the syntax of do while. Okay, let us look at the syntax of do while. Do is a keyword followed by set of statements and updating auxiliary variable. Okay, close of body, right, while followed by a condition followed by condition, right? And do while ends with semicolon and followed by next statement. Next statement. Okay. So this is the syntax of do while. Now, if you look at this, you will enter into body of the loop without checking any condition, but you will check the condition while coming out. So we call it as exit control because we are checking the condition while coming out of the loop. So we call it as exit controlled, right? Similarly, we execute the body and then check the condition, right? So we call it as post test loop. Post test loop. Are you understanding? Okay. Now what will happen here, right? Now the control, when the execution control comes to do while, right? When the execution control comes to do while, without checking, it enters into body, it executes all the statements, then it checks the condition. If condition is a true, if the condition is a true, it will loop back and it will continue execution. As long as the condition is true, it will keep on executing the body of the do while. Once the condition becomes false, it comes out of loop and continues with next statement, right? Okay. Here we need to understand here some more information, that is when to use, right? Okay, do while loop, right? First question comes is when to use do while loop. It is used, it is used in menu driven application. It is used in menu driven application. Okay, what is the meaning of menu driven applications? Let's understand them. Now, any example where you have to display the menu and based on the input which you enter, it will continue the execution. So first, whenever I have to display the menu, for example, right, let me take something here. I'll show you. Okay, menu driven C program. Now I'll show you the images. So whenever I execute a program, first I need to display the menu like this, right? See, I'm displaying a menu here. There is a menu here: create matrix, get matrix, set matrix, display matrix, and exit. So enter your choice. So like this, whenever you have to display the menu first, and then you, based on the input user gives, you have to continue the execution. So in such situation, we make use of do while loop. In such situation, we make use of do while, right, loop, right? Another thing you need to understand, right? Difference between, difference between, right, while and do while. Okay, is that do while loop, do while loop is executed at least once, at least once, even if, even if the condition is false in the beginning, right? False in the beginning, right? Even if the condition is false, right, in the beginning, it will execute at least once. Now let's have a look at an example. Okay, let's have a look at an example of while and do while, just to show you the difference between while and do while. So int main, opening bracket, Okay, right? I'll write a while loop here, and the condition is I'll write it as 0. Opening bracket printf, right? Okay, right. Okay, this is the while loop. Okay, my condition is 0. 0 means it is false. My condition is 0. 0 means false. If I execute this code, you can see that I will not get any output. I will not get any output because the condition is false. It will not enter into the body. Body will not be executed, or else I'll write one more message here. You will understand. Okay, right? I'll write it here as behave like compiler. Okay, so this is how we check, right, whether the while condition, see, since the while condition is false, without entering into the body of the loop, it will directly come to the next statement and print that. See, now if I make this loop as do while, if I make this as do while loop, see, for do while also my condition in the beginning is false, but when do while is getting executed, it will execute the body at least once. So it will print hello, right? Do while. See, hello do while, and then condition fails, comes out, prints behave like compiler. Are you understanding the working of while and do while? Are you guys understanding? Gavin says yes. Okay. What about Shahina and Srinidhi? Are you clear about how while and do while execute? What is the difference between them? Shahina and Srinidhi. Do you have any confusions or is it clear? No confusions. Good. What about Srinidhi? Are you clear, buddy? Might be Srinidhi is busy. Okay. Okay. Now let's learn the last one, right? Now let's learn the last one. That is for loop. The third one is for loop. Okay, for loop. Okay, for loop. Let's understand the syntax, right? Before we start with the syntax, right? We should tell that it is used, right? When when we know how many times the loop has to be executed. The loop has to be executed. How many times the loop has to be executed. In such situation, we make use of for loop, or we can also that when we know the starting point and ending point. When we know the starting point and ending point. Okay. So let's look at the syntax here. For keyword followed by initialization, followed by initialization, right? Followed by condition, followed by condition, followed by updating. Okay, updating. So there are three parts, right? There are three parts in the for loop, right? So one is initialization, second one is condition, third one is updating. Okay. Now, if you look at the body of the for loop, it contains set of statements or group of statements. Okay, and after that whatever code comes we call it as next statement, we call it as next statement. Okay, we call it as next statement. Okay, okay, we call it as next statement. So you need to understand how exactly this works. So what is the purpose of a loop? Loop means repetition. Loop means repetition. But in this for loop, there is one part which will be executed only once at the beginning of the loop. Initialization is executed only once at the beginning of the loop. Once the initialization is done, once the initialization is done, the control will go to condition checking. The control will go to condition checking. First step. Once the initialization is done, the control will go to condition checking. If the condition is true, if the condition is true, it will enter into body of the loop. It will execute all the statements, right? After that, the control will go to updating part. After that, control will go to, after executing the body of the loop, the control will go to updating part. Once updating is done, control will again go back to condition checking. So as long as condition is true, steps 2, 3, 4 keep on repeating. As long as the condition is true, the steps 2, 3, 4 keep on repeating. The moment once the condition becomes false, the moment once the condition becomes false, the control will come out of the loop and continue with next statement, right? Now you can write it here, explanation, right? First initialization is executed. After that, condition, if true or till true, right? 2, 3, 4 repeated. These are the steps which gets repeated. Condition false, right? Condition is false, comes out, right? Continues with the next statement, right? So when do we use this for loop, right? Okay, for what all, right? When, right? And for which situation we use these statements. See, right? When we know, right? Start and end point. Start and end point means when we know exactly how many times the loop has to be executed. In such situation, we make use of, right, uh, for loop, and it is also used to generate sequential numbers, sequential sequential numbers, right? Starting from one number to some other number where you are ending. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Or, right, you can 0, 1, 2, 3, right, like that. Or you can generate 2, 4, 6, 8, like that. Or you can generate 3, 6, right, 9, 12, and so on. It depends upon the user, okay, what he wants to do. But whenever you have a certain sequential numbers, right, such sequential numbers can be generated using a for loop. Is everybody clear